Our Jonathan Jones reporting on Thursday that Bill Belichick's contract to become the next head coach at North Carolina has not been fully executed, leading to plenty of speculation if the legendary head man is leaving the door open to head back to the league. Belichick did sign a term sheet on December 11th, laying out basic terms of the position, creating a legal gray area regarding a potential contract buyout. Recently appointed UNC general manager Michael Lombardi tried to put worry at ease on X, posting, "Bill is recruiting in D.C. today and Baltimore tomorrow. His focus is on North Carolina football, hiring staff members, and developing the team. The NFL isn't an option, so please stop making it one. Thank you." The Patriot way sure has grown complicated lately. John Breach and Ryan Wilson here to help us make sense of some of it, and that is there and elsewhere. Great to see you, fellas. Breach, you processed this latest piece of news on Belichick how?
Well, I processed it. If Michael Lombardi wanted to shut things down, he should have live streamed Bill Belichick signing the contract, and that would have quieted everyone up pretty quickly. But I noticed that is one thing he did not touch on when saying that Belichick is going to stay at North Carolina. I mean, I've been married for several years. If I went up to my wife right now and told her that, oh, I forgot to file the marriage certificate, so I'm not actually married, she would be very happy about that. So I absolutely understand why there is speculation right now about what Bill Belichick's going to do, because the fine print says you can walk right now. You can go find an NFL job if there is one out there. I think the most interesting part of this is that when Belichick got hired by North Carolina in December, it was the Saints, it was the Bears, it was the Jets. Those were your three open jobs. Not very attractive to a 73-year-old who needs to win right now. But now there's a few more attractive jobs open. You could win pretty quickly in the AFC South if you took the Jacksonville job. The Cowboys, you got Jerry Jones, and that team has 3 of the past 4 seasons won 12 games. So I do think this is interesting, and until we see him sign on the dotted line, I'm not convinced. I'm not buying anything Belichick or Lombardi are saying.
Yeah, there is a reason that contract to becoming UNC's head coach. This recruiting bit, it's well received from Lombardi, Rye, but college is sort of the land of the lawless right now as well. What, if anything, does Belichick pounding pavement these next couple days mean to you?
I think Breach hit it on the head here. If you want to quiet the doubters, just go on Twitter and sign the sheet of paper, and then we can quit talking about it. Look, man, he's 73. He has a history of not fulfilling his promises. Just ask Jets fans about that 20 or 30 years ago, however long that was. And it is with some irony and hilarity that he reached out to the Jets, a team that has literally interviewed everyone, including John Breach, I found out a few minutes ago. So he has yet to interview with them. There has been no interest from other NFL teams, and maybe there won't be. And maybe, again, this is nothing, but it is an odd thing to sign a term sheet that explicitly states that this is non-binding. Some term sheets are, according to JJ's report. So here we are, a little drama. Maybe it means nothing. And to Mike Lombardi's point, I think Belichick hired his son Steve to be the defensive coordinator. So that would be also pretty funny if he hired him at UNC and then left. Presumably he would follow him wherever he went, but for now it's something we have to talk about because there is no finality to the contract.
We will see how it all plays out there. Just the tenor in the voice tells me get it figured out. At least that's what I'm reading between the lines from Ryan Wilson. Reports also surfacing tangentially here to that Cowboy job that mutual interest is there between Dion and the Cowboys to become the next head coach. Ryan, what's understood doesn't really have to be explained, and if Prime is there, that almost certainly means that Shedeur is as well. I've been trying to do the mental gymnastics to make that happen, but I keep running into the Dak contract. The reality is pre-June 1 dead cap trade number will cripple them next year. It'll affect them for 2 more following it as well. How does this work?
So it's funny you mentioned that, Joe, because producer Noah Mandel down in Fort Lauderdale called me to talk about exactly this. He encouraged me to do a mock draft where the Cowboys trade up to get Shedeur Sanders because Prime is coming to be the coach for the Dallas Cowboys. And I said, well, that, to your point, the salary cap numbers don't make sense. And then I got a great idea for both you and for Breach, who's a Bengals fan. Steelers trade for Dak Prescott. They'll figure out the numbers later. Everybody wins. This is not happening. Number one, why would you move on from Mike McCarthy, who went 12-5, 3 straight seasons, won 7 games this year with basically like 3.5 players, everyone else was injured, to hire Coach Prime, who's done a great job at Colorado, did a great job at Jackson State, has 0 coaching experience in the NFL, and perhaps would be up against the biggest ego in the NFL in Jerry Jones for FaceTime in front of the camera. A lot of moving parts. All of them seem to be needing a little bit of oil to make it run a little smoother. I don't know how this makes sense. This makes way less sense than any conversation about Bill Belichick not having yet signed a contract.
Yeah, and you can bet Deion is down doing the napkin math right now, trying to figure out how to make this work. But the thing is, look, if you're Deion Sanders, you could walk into Dallas and say, hey, why don't I just make Dak Prescott my quarterback for at least 2025? I'll eventually unite with Shedeur somewhere. It just doesn't have to be during that first year, because it is pretty implausible at this point, unless you could somehow work out a post-June 1st deal. I don't know if the Cowboys would want to trade him at that point, but the cap hits become a lot more manageable. But then you're going into 2025. You don't know who your quarterback is. I don't think whoever drafts Shedeur is going to be trading him after June, but you get rid of Dak, you open up the quarterback spot. So maybe Deion goes that route, or Deion just says, you know what, Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. I'm going to try and win with him. And if I can trade for Shedeur in 2 or 3 years, or if Dak has a bad 2025 season, you have a reason to trade him away. So I think Deion Sanders could tolerate or just coexist with Dak Prescott for one season. I think that would be more likely where this would be headed, just because it does seem like trading up to that top spot seems almost impossible for the Cowboys.
Which could mean Prime versus Shedeur twice a year in the NFC East. Come on, the storylines, they're right there for us, fellas. As for those in action, let's operate in the material. Sonic not running alone this week. The Lions getting Knuckles back in the form of David Montgomery. Always a value add, yes, but this offense, I contend, is at its best when Jahmyr Gibbs has the ball in his hands. John, what's the proper balance this weekend in your eyes?
Yeah, Joe, I do agree. Jahmyr Gibbs is definitely more electric, but David Montgomery is a key part of the offense. He makes it more dynamic, especially down in the red zone. This is a guy who had 10 touchdowns this year. So he scored 10 times. He had 14 games and he scored in 10 of those games. And so you look at that, and that's important. And then you look at the beating Jahmyr Gibbs takes when Dave Montgomery's not out there. He's getting all the carries. And sure, you could do that for a game or two, but that wears on you. So that's less wear and tear on Jahmyr Gibbs. Your red zone offense better. And let's not forget, the Lions went 9-0 this season when Dave Montgomery had at least 12 carries. Now, that's not necessarily a magical number. It's just that Ben Johnson loves the way his offense is structured. He gets his key players the ball. He gets it to Gibbs. He gets it to Montgomery. He gets it to St. Brown. And so when he has everyone available, that makes him a better play caller. It makes the Lions offense better and more successful. I think having David Montgomery out there this weekend will be a huge deal.
Yeah, I was trying to remember where I heard someone first say that Jahmyr Gibbs by himself is much better without David Montgomery. That was you, Joe, and that's a good point. But I think the other point is important, and one that Breach noted. You don't want to run Jahmyr Gibbs into the ground. You have a couple more games you need to win, and he's not built to carry the ball 30 times a game and catch 12 or 15 passes, but he is built to get about 15 to 20 touches a game and let David Montgomery do the between the tackles hard hitting if needed. So this is a great gift for them. They've been incredibly injured, especially on defense for the last month and a half, 6 weeks, even going back to when Aiden Hutchinson got hurt earlier in the year, and they found ways to win. They're getting healthier now. Getting David Montgomery back only helps them and helps their case as they try to make that old Super Bowl run.
Context of the conversation that did come after the new contract for David Montgomery. Just questioning the why behind it all, and obviously they are better when both are on the field. I do not contend that at all, but Jahmyr Gibbs, I believe, did just tie a franchise record for touchdowns. Who's keeping track? The Ravens, not as fortunate on that front just yet. Still no practice for wide receiver 1 and Zay Flowers, guys. Ryan, this offense still managed 464 yards in that dismantling of your Steelers last weekend. Is there enough in his absence once again to go blow for blow in Buffalo this time?
Yeah, man, this team, here's the thing. If you have Lamar Jackson, you're going to be okay. Yeah. And we sort of make the same argument for Josh Allen, right? He doesn't have the players around him that Lamar does. Derrick Henry also ain't too bad. The Steelers can attest to that with the tread marks on the front and the back of their jerseys after last week's beatdown. Mark Andrews is playing at a super high level, especially the last 6 weeks or so of the season. He was banged up going back to last year and finally feels like he's at full health. Isaiah Likely's a playmaker. Rashad Bateman only scores touchdowns. So they're going to be okay as long as they're able to run the ball, and that's something they got away from last year against Kansas City in that playoff game, and something they certainly made clear they were going to do last week in that Steelers beatdown. I think they're going to be fine. And I think even without Zay Flowers, who is incredibly dynamic, you would argue that their playmakers are a little more electric than the Bills' playmakers who they'll face off against 6:30 Sunday, CBS in Buffalo.
What a great plug there, Ryan. And look, I'm not sure if you guys saw the weather forecast for Sunday, but it is going to be cold, like shivering cold. And so when the weather is that cold, what you really want to be doing is just running the ball. And the Ravens have the perfect offense for that. And we saw them kind of run that same game plan out against the Pittsburgh Steelers when they ran for 299 yards. So I do think if you are going to miss Zay Flowers, this is probably the game where it's okay, where your offense can survive, because you really should have kind of a ground-based game plan going into this game. And if you look at the regular season, they did okay when Zay Flowers didn't have his biggest games. He had 6 games this year where he went 35 yards or less. Well, they went 6-0 in those games, and they averaged 34.2 points per game. So their offense was fully functioning, whether Zay Flowers was playing well. It ran well last week when he wasn't out on the field. So I do think they'll be okay. Obviously, it's a better offense with Zay Flowers out there. But as Ryan mentioned, you have Mark Andrews, you have Isaiah Likely, you have Rashad Bateman. So they do have playmakers out there who will be able to catch the ball in the event they decide to throw it, which, hey, look, if they run it 50 times, I think that might be good enough in that weather.
Yeah, of that 464, 299 on the ground would have been the even 300 if not for a knee at the end of the game. And temps in the single digits and snow, not what an ailing knee needs. So we will see if Flowers is there. If not, we'll see if they are all right moving forward.